Part 1. The misunderstanding that creates inner war. Your shadow doesn't want to destroy you, it wants to be seen. Most people live as if there is an enemy inside them, an impulse they must suppress, a feeling they must control, a side of themselves they must defeat. So they turn their inner life into a battlefield. Discipline versus desire, reason versus emotion, control versus impulse. And they believe this inner war is maturity. It isn't. It's fragmentation. Here's the central mistake. People assume the shadow is destructive by nature. It's not. The shadow becomes destructive only when it is ignored, rejected, or treated as unacceptable. Because the shadow is not a monster, it's a messenger. It contains parts of you that were not allowed to exist openly, needs that were dismissed, emotions that were punished, impulses that were shamed, strengths that were made dangerous. So those parts went underground, not to harm you, but to survive. And survival strategies don't stop just because you grew up. They continue until they are acknowledged. That's why the shadow feels disruptive, not because it wants chaos, but because it wants contact. Imagine trying to silence someone who has something important to say. They don't become quiet, they become louder, or subtler, or more manipulative. The shadow works the same way. If it can't speak directly, it speaks through symptoms, through anxiety, through resentment, through compulsions, through sudden emotional swings, through self-sabotage, through repeating patterns you don't understand. People ask, why is this happening to me? Often the answer is simple, because something in you has not been allowed to exist honestly. And honesty is not indulgence. Honesty is contact. When you treat parts of yourself as unacceptable, you create an internal exile. And exiled parts don't disappear. They wait, they watch, they influence from the dark. So the question is not, how do I get rid of my shadow? The real question is, what part of me is asking to be seen? Because when something is truly seen, it no longer needs to fight for attention. In the next part, we'll look at what the shadow is actually asking for, and why seeing it changes everything. Part 2. What the shadow is really asking for. The shadow is often misunderstood because people think it wants expression at any cost. That's not true. The shadow does not want you to act out every impulse. It wants recognition, not obedience. It wants acknowledgement, not control. Here's what the shadow is actually asking for. First, validation of existence. At some point, a part of you learned, this is not allowed. So the shadow carries a simple demand. Don't deny that I exist. When you say, I shouldn't feel this, I shouldn't want this, I'm better than this, you repeat the original rejection. And rejection strengthens the shadow's urgency. Second, emotional contact. The shadow wants you to feel what it carries, not to drown in it, not to act it out, to feel it without judgment. Anger wants to be felt as energy. Fear wants to be felt as sensation. Desire wants to be felt as movement. Sadness wants to be felt as weight. When emotions are felt fully, they complete themselves. When they are avoided, they linger. Third, integration into identity. The shadow does not want to replace who you are. It wants a seat at the table. Most inner conflict exists because identity is too narrow. I am calm. I am rational. I am strong. I am disciplined. Anything that contradicts the identity becomes shadow, and the shadow pushes back, not to destroy the identity, but to expand it. Because a rigid identity is fragile. An integrated identity is resilient. Fourth, conscious direction. The shadow carries energy, aggression, ambition, sexuality, assertiveness, intensity. When that energy has no conscious direction, it turns chaotic. When it is recognized, it becomes power. The shadow doesn't want to run your life. It wants you to run it consciously. Fifth, completion of old adaptations. Many shadow traits were once intelligent solutions. Anger protected boundaries, withdrawal protected safety, control protected stability, numbness protected survival. But solutions that are not updated become limitations. The shadow wants you to see, this helped once. It doesn't need to rule anymore. That recognition is enough to change the pattern. Now here's the key insight. The shadow becomes dangerous only when it has to fight for recognition. When it is seen, it calms. When it is heard, it cooperates. So how do you actually do that in real life? That's the final part. Part 3, how to see the shadow without letting it take over. Seeing the shadow does not mean losing control. It means gaining regulation. Here's how to do it without collapsing into impulse. First, create internal permission. Say this internally. I am allowed to notice this without acting on it. That single sentence changes everything because it removes the fear that awareness equals behavior. Awareness does not force action. Unconsciousness does. Second, stay with the sensation. The shadow speaks through the body. Tightness, heat, pressure, restlessness, heaviness. Instead of analyzing immediately, stay with the sensation for a few breaths. This tells the nervous system, this can be felt safely. And safety is what dissolves urgency. Third, name the part, not globally, specifically. This is the angry part. This is the fearful part. This is the part that wants recognition. This is the part that wants control. Naming creates separation without rejection. You are not the part, but the part is part of you. Fourth, ask what it needs, not what it wants. Needs are mature, wants are impulsive. Anger may want to attack, but it needs boundaries. Fear may want to avoid, but it needs reassurance. Desire may want to consume, but it needs direction. When needs are met, impulses soften. Fifth, give it a conscious role. Every shadow part wants contribution. Let anger inform your boundaries. Let ambition shape your goals. Let sensitivity deepen connection. Let intensity fuel focus. When a part has a role, it stops sabotaging. Now the deeper realization, the shadow does not disappear when seen, it transforms. What was chaotic becomes structured. What was reactive becomes responsive. What was dangerous becomes useful. And this is the point where inner conflict ends, not because you won, but because nothing inside you needs to be exiled anymore. That's what integration actually means. Not perfection, not constant calm, wholeness. And a whole system does not destroy itself. It cooperates. If this shifted how you see your inner world, stay with that. Being seen is often all a part of you ever wanted. If you want more content like this, calm, precise, and focused on real inner change, you can follow this channel. New videos will continue exploring psychology, integration, and self-mastery. Thanks for listening. I'll see you in the next one.